Welcome to Weird Web Radio, an explorer's guide to hidden worlds of the paranormal and occult, reality-expanding experiences, and the downright weird and bizarre. With your host, Lonnie Scott.
Welcome to Weird Web Radio. I'm your host, Lonnie Scott, and this is a very special Halloween edition. So, happy Halloween, blessed Samhain, and wonderful winter nights to all of you out there for listening. Whether you're out there trick-or-treating with your family and friends, or you're the one who's giving out candy at the door, going to costume parties, or joining in ritual with your fellow pagans, heathens, and witches to honor the dead, I wanted to give you all a special gift today to say thank you. Thank you for being fans. Thank you for listening to these episodes, and thank you for making this show possible. As my gift to you, I went back through the archives and I thought, what can I give to you that really suits Halloween? And I realized on all the bonus audio sections for my Patreon members, often the first thing I talk to them about is what famous person's resting place would they like to visit? What do they do when they enter a cemetery? What do they do when they go to a grave? Why would they even want to visit that person's grave at all? So I've gone back and made a collection of randomly selected audio to present to you to enjoy this Halloween. You're going to hear answers come from Aiden Wachter, Ansley the Spirit Chick, Elizabeth Saint, Evo Dominguez, Jason Miller, Kai Armand, Lothar Tuppen, Matt Oren, Morgan Daimler, Amanda Yates Garcia, Marcus Katz, Morpheus Ravenna, Tim Weisberg, and Greg and Dana Newkirk. And at the very end of this, Heather Green. But she won't be telling you what famous person's grave she'd like to visit. She's got a story that I think you'll all love, and that is the special treat. Thank you again for being here. If you want to hear more of these bonus audio questions answered and get really in deep with each of these guests, go to patreon.com/weirdwebradio or go to weirdwebradio.com and simply click join the membership. Thank you for being here. Stay weird, my friends. Okay, Aiden, it's bonus question time. Are you ready?
Rockin'.
All right,
Rockin'.
These are a lot less heavy and a lot more fun. I got inspired for these questions from a game called Morbid Curiosity. It literally is what it sounds like. It's questions that are all revolving around morbid ideas, topics, death. And I twisted them a little bit to have fun. There's not too many of them.
Okay.
So, to begin, what famous person's resting place would you most like to visit?
Austin Osman Spare.
Oh, yeah. Where is it?
I do know where it is. It's in England. It's in a churchyard. He's buried with his parents. But he's a part of the shop, so that would be the place.
He's a part of the shop.
He is a part of the
spirits
shop
that you honor regularly?
Absolutely.
Good call. Do you have a specific practice when you visit a grave? Something that you do?
No, I pretty much wing it.
Just wing it.
I always bring gifts, but I don't have a specific practice.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would say is since I started doing the jewelry thing, if I know I'm going to the graveyard, I bring sigils because I often cut things out that don't work. So I often have these tiny little, somewhat imperfect moons and stars and crosses and things. And I have a little jar of those. And if I know I'm going to go to anything that's kind of like, a related site, I'll throw a few of those in my pockets and I'll leave those as offerings.
Well, that's cool. Yeah. I leave pennies.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was funny whenever I was reading your book, you talked about an experiment you did with nickels.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, years. I mean, it's 2 decades or more since I was a kid. I don't know where it got instilled in my brain, but pennies have always been currency of the dead in my brain.
It's pretty traditional.
That's what they are. Yeah. So that's what I leave when I visit graves. You'll know if I've been to one.
Yep.
Okay, Ansley, it is bonus audio time. Let's get started. What famous person's resting place would you most like to visit?
I would like to go and see King Tut because I want to go to Egypt and I want to go investigate the pyramids.
King Tut and investigate. Now, there's an interesting thought. Has anyone, to your knowledge, conducted a paranormal investigation inside any of those tombs?
I've heard of Josh Gates doing something for it on his TV show, but it wasn't a very long segment. I didn't get to see it, but I heard that he went inside the tombs and they got some very negative feelings and some they were very sick, and they believed it was the Pharaoh's curse that is said to be a big thing in Egypt and stuff like that. I don't know if that's true or not, but I just know that Egyptians are very spiritual and they had a lot of very interesting beliefs back in the day. And there's always been some sort of strange EMF that's been said to be linked with the pyramids and stuff like that. So I've always been incredibly interested in learning about that. And also, of course, learning if there's actually a curse of the mummies there.
Yeah. Yeah. I've long had a love for the ancient Egyptian, well, mostly the mythology. But that's really interesting. That's curious. No one has come up with an answer like that yet. Yeah, it never occurred to me that we're going to have to dig into this. I want to know if there's people out there doing paranormal investigations in ancient Egyptian sites.
Hey, if nobody's done it, you and I should go. Let's start.
Oh my God, yes. Let's start a Kickstarter, a GoFundMe, something. All right. Bonus audio time.
Sweet.
These are the questions that make people squirm. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. First up, what famous person's resting place would you most like to visit?
Oh, that's a good one. Oh God, I don't.
You don't get to back out.
Does Nikola Tesla have a resting place?
Ooh.
Because if he did, I'd be super interested to go there and bring, like, I don't know, something to experiment around his grave with. That sounds weird as heck.
Oh my God. You're my new favorite human being. I didn't know I needed that idea. I didn't know, but now I do.
Awesome.
I don't know what's happened to him. If he was buried, cremated.
Yeah.
Where are the remains of Mr. Tesla?
That could be a whole show.
Holy shit. You should make a show. Put that on TV. Finding Tesla's remains.
Finding Tesla.
It'll be a throwback to when they had the Finding Al Capone's vault on TV when I was a kid.
Oh my God. That's funny.
So Tesla, excellent choice. And now it is bonus question time. Woo-hoo. All right. Now, some people get stumped. Fair warning.
Okay.
First out of the gate, what famous person's resting place would you most like to visit?
That I haven't already, or that I already have?
Oh, well, yeah, you're like me then. You go everywhere you want to go.
I do visit grave sites.
Well, if there's one you haven't been to yet, who would it be?
I have not visited Edgar Allan Poe's gravesite.
Oh, very cool. Where's that? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't know. I'll have to look that up. The last one that was really important to me, we went to see Dion Fortune's gravesite in Glastonbury.
Ah, yeah. That would be a nice place to stop.
That was an important one.
Now, do you have a specific practice when you get to a cemetery, enter a cemetery, go to the grave?
It's going to be really similar to the practices I have related to either entering into houses to check out their spiritual nature, or going to a temple or a church or a synagogue for the first time. So I try to pay attention to, like, where does this cemetery or burial ground officially begin? And I try to make some kind of announcement that I'm at the door or threshold, that I'm crossing into the space. Am I welcome? And then once I'm in the graveyard, I try to find the location of the grave. And at that point, because there's usually a lot of other people around, because more often than not, these have been famous graves that I've tried to track down.
I end up doing it mostly in my head, but I basically try to send a bit of energy down into the ground through my feet, standing near as I can to where the grave or mausoleum, if it's not in ground burial. And then I try to reach upwards from that rooting place and see into the heavens and try to see if I can reach towards as far as I can, whatever it feels the direction of that spirit is, and say, I'm visiting your grave. I'm here to honor you. And sometimes nothing happens, and sometimes there's a little trickle of recognition. But I anchor in the ground nearest the grave or mausoleum, and then I send a line of energy heavenwards towards wherever I feel it's being pulled.
All right, Lothar, it's bonus question time. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, just a quick rundown. These questions come out of or are based on a game I actually think you would love. It's called Morbid Curiosity.
Oh.
Yeah. So, without further ado,
I am not wearing a tutu.
Oh, perfect. Neither am I. No. What famous person's resting place would you most like to visit?
H.P. Lovecraft, because I've already been able to go to Robert E. Howard's grave last year.
Now, you're the first person to say Lovecraft. Why would you do that? In fact, where is his final resting place?
Providence, because his epitaph is "I am Providence." Providence, Rhode Island. I grew up on the pulps, all sorts of pulps, but specifically the weird tale authors, especially the big three, Robert E. Howard, H.P. Lovecraft, and Clark Ashton Smith, have been majorly inspiring and influential to me, both as a fan, as a young person who was transported into their worlds, and as a writer and creator in my own right.
You know, I didn't ask you this in the regular broadcast, and maybe I should, but I hadn't thought of it until now. But is there anything special that you do when you visit a grave?
If one, I always just approach it with respect. And sometimes if I don't, I would like, a lot of times I'll bring offerings of mead. A lot of times if I can't do that, if it's not logistically practical, I will chant and sing to them and try and give them a gift of Galder.
Nice. Very nice. Okay, Matt, it's bonus question time.
All right.
Are you ready? These are a little less serious, a little bit more fun. First one up. What famous person's resting place would you most like to visit?
Ooh. I mean, I have a list.
Oh, well, give me a couple of them. That's fine.
That doesn't mean I necessarily know where they are, but there's places I would definitely like to seek out. And I would like to visit Austin Osman Spare's grave, Andrew Chumbly, Doreen Valiente, and yeah, I think those would be my top three that I would really like to go to, visit, and connect with.
Okay. Yeah, and when you visit graves, like if you find them, you go see these. I mean, do you have a specific tradition or something you do when you visit a grave?
It depends on what I'm doing.
Just visiting.
Just visiting. Well, before I enter any graveyard or any place like that, I will knock on the gate, even if the gate is completely open. And I will just acknowledge to the guardian, which there usually is a guardian in my experience of every graveyard, that I'm entering. If I were to connect, if I'm just going to visit or give an offering or whatever, like flowers or whatever, there would be nothing too formal. I would just kind of, sit there, meditate, try to connect psychically. But if I was doing other things, if I wanted like graveyard dirt or something like that, like it'd be a little different.
Okay, Kai. Bonus question time. Are you ready?
Ready.
I know everybody says that, and then there aren't. All right. Question number one. I bet this is going to be interesting from you because I'm sure you visited lots of graves. What famous person's resting place would you most like to visit?
Oh my God, that is so interesting. I have a list. I have like a literal list of of certain persons and where they're buried and where and my desire to go visit them. Um, God, now I'm trying to. I don't. That list is in a file I can't exactly find right now, so I'm going to pull off the top of my head. Um, the person would be. Oh God, there's so many people in my head now. This is something obviously, as a root doctor, I'm thinking about all the
Just
time.
give me two or three.
Oh, you know what? You know what? It wouldn't. Can it be not a grave, but a place where I think that their force would be strong?
Sure.
Fela Kuti.
Who?
Fela Kuti. Fela space Kuti. I do not know. I don't remember if his grave is accessible, but there is a statue of him in Nigeria. I believe that I think that we also know where his compound was, if it's not still operating, the compound where he would hold his um, his compound was a place where he lived, but it was also like a club called the Shrine. Fela Kuti was a Nigerian political rebel and a musician who is credited with creating the genre of music we call it's not Afropunk, Afrobeat. And Afrobeat combined um, African percussion with like James Brown horn, like heavy use of horn, and to me, it's just a beautiful music genre. I was introduced to the idea of Fela Kuti years ago. My grandmother took me to see Fela on Broadway, which was produced by Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith, and it was a beautiful play. You can look it up. You can see scenes of it online. A beautiful play, sort of about the life of this highly controversial figure who created this music genre, political rebel, and also caused a huge stir because he was polygamous and various other aspects of his life. And I was hugely inspired by this force, by this person, because sometimes you see someone and you say, "Oh my God, I want to be that," or like, and I don't necessarily want to be polygamous, but it was just such a beautiful representation of a man of African descent in a way that I hadn't seen before in our world, and it resonated so strongly with me. And he resonated so strongly with me that I actually like went online to find a high res image of him and get like a custom poster made because I was so inspired by this person's being. So that is one person who I would love to sort of interact with on a necromantic level. Another person would be Harriet Tubman for sure. I don't know if we know where her grave is, but there is a statue of her in West Africa that I would gladly, swipe some dirt from. And another is Zora Neale Hurston. I know that there's a lot of conflicting thoughts about the, let's say, the quality and honesty of her anthropological work, but her storytelling was of such a caliber that it truly has lasted with us into this era, and I don't think it's ever going to go away. And part of our knowledge of her in contemporary times is laden with the fact that we do not know where her resting place is. What we know is that Alice Walker in the 70s or 80s, I believe, went to Florida to the field where she is purported to have an unmarked grave, and she kind of put a marker there. So we know where Alice Walker has honored her. I don't know if it'll ever be possible to find her actual grave, but even that, and that legacy of black womanhood, black woman, the black female writing legacy that we've received, and we are all the blessed recipients of that. We're talking Maya Angelou, we're talking Toni Morrison, we're talking The Bluest Eye, we're talking The Color Purple. There's no American who has not been touched by this ancestral legacy of energy that would have never happened had the legacy not occurred. We wouldn't have Alice Walker if we didn't have Zora Neale Hurston. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And we all, no matter what ethnicity we are, we've all been touched by this legacy. I would love to visit her grave as a progenitor, one of the beginnings of that legacy.
That's cool. Yeah, I'd love stories of people who cross cultural and ethnic boundaries like that with such beautiful, deep impact. That's awesome.
Me too.
Yeah. I'm curious, though, going back to the idea of visiting a grave, do you have a specific practice you do when you enter a cemetery and visit a grave?
I do. It depends on why I'm there. If I'm there to do hoodoo work, I am going to drop 9 pennies at the gate and go in and do my work. If I'm there to do work in Vodou, my practice is a little bit different. 9 pennies isn't exactly what's called for in Vodou. It's a different practice. And if I'm there, to work with Santísima Muerte, oftentimes my work is more centered around the gate itself. And if I am there to just visit, then chances are I'm just walking in. Yeah. But I do have different protocol depending on the tradition I'm there to do work regarding.
Awesome. All right, Morgan, are you ready for bonus questions?
Hit me with them.
All right. There's not too many of them. There's only like 5 or 6 that we're going to go over. These aren't kind of the things that we covered before. These are more fun. I got inspired by a game that's called Morbid Curiosity, and I thought it'd be fun to cover that with all my guests.
I like the name.
So, without further ado, what famous person's resting place would you most like to visit?
Definitely William Butler Yeats. I'm actually going to Sligo, in Ireland, obviously, in the end of April, and I'm hoping I might have a chance to actually get to his gravesite. Fingers crossed. We'll see if I have the time.
I hope you do. Why Yeats?
I adore Yeats. I have a tragic, sad Yeats obsession. I'm honest about it. I don't deny it.
Tragic and sad.
Tragic and sad, yes. No, when I was in high school, I got a copy of his Celtic Twilight, and I just fell in love with the way he can write poetry, he can write prose. He isn't without his own, problems and issues for, who and what he was at the time he was writing. But, I was fascinated by the fact that he was so interested in the occult. And he was also very interested in preserving anecdotes about Irish folklore and things to do with the fairies. And it just kind of sucked me in. So, yeah, gotta love some Yeats.
Nice. Okay, it's bonus question time. Are you ready?
All right.
All right. These are the ones that make people squirm.
Okay.
Yeah. You can be as detailed or as you want on these. It doesn't require a whole lot of thought, but they are a little odd.
Okay.
Question number 1. What famous person's resting place would you like to visit?
Oh. Well, then, the next time I go to Ireland, I mean to get to Yeats's grave. But I suppose, well, gosh, I'm not really sure what to say.
You've been to Ireland.
The historical person that I have an attachment to is Queen Boudica, but no one knows where she's buried.
Oh. You've been all over that island and you've not found it yet.
Well, she would be in Britain.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
Yeah.
So nobody, huh?
I mean, off the top of my head, I guess I don't have any big ones that I can think of.
That's almost disappointing for someone who works with spirits.
Well, I guess.
I mean, Yates is a good answer, though.
People.
Yeah, Yates is be a good answer. I'm surprised you haven't been there already.
Yeah, I was actually in Sligo during my last trip there, but we were on our way somewhere and didn't stop by his grave.
Yeah, I still regret to this day. I spent some time in Seattle several years ago, and I never visited Jimi Hendrix's grave. I made it to Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee's grave, but never to Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, I have an interesting story about that. So isn't he buried in the same cemetery as Bruce Lee?
Is he? I don't know. And that makes me even more disappointed if he is. Well, there is that I was in there.
Cemetery in Seattle where Bruce Lee is buried. And I have a whole interesting story there.
Oh, spit it out.
Okay, since we're doing fun stuff, we were going to this cemetery just because we had some time to kill, and we were in Seattle. This is my partner and I. And I actually didn't know that there was famous people buried there, and I was like, hey, they're on the map. There's a cemetery near here. Let's go hang out, because this is the thing I do. So we go to this cemetery, and we're wandering around, and there's a crowd of people around this area. And so we're going up there, and people are taking photographs with this grave, and it seemed like it was a spot. So we hung around and we discovered that it was Bruce Lee's grave. And so we were going to go and visit it, but we had to wait around, till everybody else left. And while we were waiting, we were sort of just, we went up to the top of a hill nearby where it was shady to wait. And I turned around and there was a dead raven by my feet.
Oh, wow.
Just right there. Yeah. Somehow had walked right up on it without seeing it, and there it was. So,
and no sign of a murderous cat walking around.
No. In fact, there had been a groundskeeper mowing the lawn there right before us.
Okay, it's bonus question time.
Hey, yay.
Are you ready?
I am.
As I often warn, these are the ones that make people squirm.
Oh, okay. I'm excited to hear what these are.
All right. First up, what famous person's resting place would you most like to visit?
Famous person's resting place would I most like to visit? I would love to visit Boudica's grave. The warrior queen of
yes,
of pre-Roman England.
Absolutely.
One of my friends just recently had a dream about her, and in the dream, right before Boudica appeared to her, and then right before she left, she was like, "Tell Amanda I said hi, by the way."
What's crazy about that is the last guest I had on, Morpheus Ravenna. She's up in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah.
I asked her the same question, and her answer was the same.
No.
Yeah,
really?
So we're batting 2 in a row. Yes.
Wow. Boudica's having a renaissance.
Maybe Boudica's starting to move some pieces around in the world.
Yes. Yeah. I'm gonna put her on my altar. I'm gonna put an image of her on my altar.
You may want to make a few ancestral type offerings for a while and see how things change.
I will.
Bonus audio time.
See, the fact that you said no pressure
makes it
that's more pressure. Now I feel
that's how pressure works. All right. First up, what famous person's resting place would you like to visit?
Oh my God, that's so hard.
Oh no, You've been to so many already.
I know. Oh man.
I can think of one right off the top of my head. There's he's not really all that famous. I feel like he should be. I think exactly what I'm going to talk about.
I think we're going to probably say the exact same thing.
And maybe this will get people interested in him some more.
Yeah, and I mean, if you were interested in the occult at all, this is a person whose grave you should definitely visit?
There's a guy by the name of Salim Lamucci, and he was the founder and guitarist of a band called The Devil's Blood. Look past the name. It's kind of a silly name, but they probably are my favorite band of all time. And they're just, it's like deeply rooted in the occult. They get lumped into like heavy metal or black metal, but they're anything but. It's very melodic. He was a really interesting guy who was just an absolute beast of a guitar player. Who he went to a mental asylum and heard a voice talk to him, and the voice told him there's another way. And ever since that point, he kind of wrote down what the voice was telling him, and those became his songs, and they're absolutely incredible. He committed suicide a couple years ago, and it's really sad. It's really, really sad, because I think had he not committed suicide, he would have, gotten meteorically huge. But now, they left an album unfinished, and it's just, I think I would like to visit his grave. I believe where is it located? It's not Sweden, is it?
No, I think it's in Denmark.
It's in Denmark. Yeah. That's one that I'd love to visit Salim's grave.
Yes.
Okay. Bonus audio time.
All right.
All right. This is going to be just a quick round of questions that come kind of from the game Morbid Curiosity. It's a small card game that I highly recommend. If you don't have it, go get it. It's kind of fun for those of us who delve into the world of the paranormal anyway. So right out of the gate, what famous person's resting place would you like to visit?
Oh. Well, I've been to John Belushi's already, just because that's near me. Famous persons that I'd want to go to. Well, can I dig it up if I go there?
I'm not the law enforcement. You're welcome to do whatever you want.
I would love to go and visit the grave of Billy the Kid, because I've always been fascinated with that story, and I want to find out for sure if whether or not he was actually Brushy Bill Roberts or any of these other stories that people tell about him not actually being killed by Pat Garrett.
Yeah, where is that grave located?
I'm not sure. Probably in Arizona or New Mexico somewhere.
That'd be my guess. So the story is that he was killed, and then he may not have been killed. Who do you think occupies that grave?
Yeah, I watched Young Guns 2 a lot when I was a kid, so...
Now one site that I'd like to see myself would be Aleister Crowley's, but I'm not entirely sure where that's at, but I believe it's up in the New England area. Have you heard of where that could be?
I don't think it's up around here, because if it was, I probably would have already been there. Looks like New Jersey is probably where it is. I'm cheating and looking online.
Oh, look at you. Being all clever, consulting the Oracle.
He was cremated, and ashes were buried next to a tree in Hampton, New Jersey, on the property of Carl Germer. So, yeah, I think one of the places that I'd like to visit locally, and I can go to it now, is they've recently moved the remains of Massasoit, who was the Wampanoag chief that met with the Indians. And I'm fascinated with the Wampanoag Indians from this area, and a lot of the paranormal stories, especially that come from there and from King Philip's War. So I definitely plan on making a trip out to where they have moved Massasoit's grave to, because for some reason I've always felt a connection to him.
Well, that's cool. Okay, Marcus, it is bonus audio time.
Okay, excellent. Good job.
Are you ready?
Yes, certainly.
All right.
Let's stick with it.
To begin, what famous person's resting place would you most like to visit?
Famous Bill? That's an interesting question. To be honest, it sounds a little bit cliched, but I would love to go and visit Aleister Crowley's resting place.
No, I don't blame
because no one quite knows where it is. So it would be a really fascinating research project to actually go and find out where it is. I believe his ashes were taken from the south coast where he was cremated. to America to one of his students or followers in America, who allegedly scattered them by the base of a tree in his backyard. I think that's the commonly accepted story. I could be wrong with that, but I would only do it just because of the research project. Similarly with Pamela Coleman Smith, the co-designer of the Waite-Smith Tarot with Arthur Edward Waite, I would like to visit her exact resting place because, again, whilst we know the cemetery, and I've actually visited the cemetery, I would like to actually know where her exact resting place is, because then we could put up a proper sort of memorial to her to recognise her art and the impact that it's had in 1 billion readings ever since she designed that deck.
It's kind of odd if you think about it, that these two iconic figures in the occult, right? You know, without Crowley's work, there wouldn't be a lot of what exists today. With that and his prolific need to write, and without Pamela Coleman Smith's artwork, which arguably are the images that even non-tarot people think of when they think of tarot. They've not been gone from the world that long, and yet we can't pinpoint where their final resting places are.
Not exactly, no. We have, I think it's the fact that there isn't a sort of standard resting place or memorial for these people. Yeah. We did investigate actually having a special plaque for Pamela Coleman Smith, but there's various issues with that. And also whether she would have been wanted to have been remembered for the tarot is a moot point, because she did convert to Roman Catholicism shortly after designing the deck. So it might not be in her honor to even remember her in association with the tarot. She might not have necessarily wanted that. We'll probably never know.
Yeah, that's an interesting dilemma. Well, I honor her as part of my ancestral work for being a tarot reader myself. I certainly hope that she doesn't mind.
Yeah,
when
me
you
too.
visit, now, when you visit a cemetery, you know, as an occult practitioner, do you have any specific practices or method of entrance, or anything specific you do when you visit a grave?
I tend to have a slightly personal and very simple approach. I always like to enter the cemetery or resting place as a ritual. So I imagine I'm walking across a circle when I enter that space. Then when I usually approach a particular grave, if I'm visiting a particular grave, if we're not just doing general research, then I will tend to do this weird little thing with my feet. I can't remember, I think I learned this in a Gareth Knight book when I was young, where I make a T shape with my feet and point the pointy foot, which is usually my right foot, to the east. And then I spend a moment just in that position, and then I turn my feet and point them in a T shape to the next quarter, and then I go around the 4 quarters and rotate myself slightly and feel that point is like the center of my experience. And then I sort of feel like I'm sinking into the earth. So I do like the reverse of the banishing, which is when you sort of extend yourself and you feel like the earth is a little globe underneath your feet and you're, the size of the solar system. I sort of reverse that and sink into the earth. And I just like to rest with the person or the place in a very sort of quiet way. And I don't really do much else than that. Sometimes I'll offer water, or I'll make a little leaf sculpture. If it's a place that I'm visiting, then I tend to honor that place by taking a few stones, a few sticks, a bit of rubbish, and making a little circle or a monolith or an arrow shape or a feather shape or something like that, that I know will just blow away in the wind within a few hours, but will be a sort of marker to the fact that I was there and engaging with the place.
Okay, Jason, it's bonus audio time. Are you ready?
Bonus round.
Everybody says they're ready, but I don't believe them.
Go ahead, Alex. Give me the questions. The answers.
Survey says. All right. What famous person's resting place would you most like to visit?
Oh, goodness. At the moment, H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah. Now, where's that at? Do you know?
I'm not even a big, crazy Cthulhu guy. I mean, I like the stuff, and I did Necronomicon experiments, and I think that he was on the I think his writing was influenced by being tapped into that spiritual nature that is so big, so cosmic, it makes mankind look like ants by comparison. So this sort of, non-human intellect that isn't even concerned with humans necessarily, which is its own sort of thing. So it's cool. It's a cool, stellar thing that he tapped into, which is worthy of a visit to the grave. There's a bunch of other magicians and sorcerers and writers and things whose graves that I have visited, but I haven't visited H.P. Lovecraft. And then there are people that we don't know where they're buried. So, I'd love to go to the final resting place of Padmasambhava, but I have no idea where that is. So,
yeah, I'd like to visit Pamela Coleman Smith's final resting place. Marcus Katz thinks he knows where it is now, but we're not sure.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate that we don't even know where that is for sure. When you visit a cemetery or you visit a grave, do you have a specific practice?
Well, I mean, for instance, if I went to the grave of H.P. Lovecraft, I would just go and I'd 90% of it would be tourist me. Take a photo, leave something meaningful as a token, take some graveyard dirt, pay for it, that kind of thing. If I am going to a boneyard to make friends, then yes, there's a number of different practices I can tap into. Some of them involve coating myself with a ritual bath, and then that is necromantically oriented, and anointing myself with oil, essentially so that you're coated with that resonant nature. And then I would use different psychical techniques at the boneyard. I would explore the geography of the boneyard itself, because it differs place to place. Sometimes the most important grave is geographically at the top, even though it may not be the most important person. They're hilltop. At other times, it's the oldest grave, or a grave near a particularly gnarled tree or something like that. I'm thinking the tree that Aleister Crowley's ashes were finally scattered around is pretty gnarly looking. So there are different ways to do that. That is unfortunately not in a graveyard. It's at what is now a dairy farm.
All right. Yeah, that is unfortunate.
Jersey.
Now, every place has its own local myth, its own folklore, whether it's stories attached to the local cemeteries or that old house at the end of the road. It's where old Miss whatever her face was, used to kidnap neat kids. What's one of your favorite local stories?
to where I live now, I can't think of one, but there's one really fun sort of local haunting myth type thing that happened where I grew up, which is in New Jersey. There was this thing called the Devil's Tower in Alpine, New Jersey, and it's still there. The tower has these two things that come out at the bottom, probably 1 story high, and then it has the tower, and there's supposedly a clock at the top. It was a clock tower. And it was built by whoever owned the land, built it at the beginning of the property. And eventually the land was sold and there's houses all around it. But the clock tower is still there in the center of a roundabout. It's stone, and it has a center gate, a wrought iron gate that you can go into the tower with and then out the other side. So it's almost like a little tunnel. So this tower has this story that the owner murdered his wife and buried her underneath the tower.
Oh no!
And so this is the story that we were all told growing up was that the dead wife haunts the tower, and if you drive 3 times backwards around the tower, the roundabout around the tower, in the dark at a certain hour, and I don't know if it was midnight, I can't remember, probably was. The tower would light up and you'd bring the devil out. So of course, as soon as we all got our licenses, we were driving backwards around the tower.
Well, how'd it go?
Well, I became a witch a few years later. I don't know if it had any effect, but
the devil came out in just not so obvious ways.
Yeah, exactly, right? But, that was, what do they call legend tripping? That was my teenage legend tripping story. I love it. And the tower's still there, and you can read about the legend online. And I laugh so hard whenever I think about that story, because thinking about driving around in these beat up little things, let's go to Alpine and drive around the tower 3 times. Yes, that's awesome. That's what we're gonna do Friday night. Let's call the devil.
Yeah, you can't just do it. You got to do it backwards. Yeah.
You got to do it backwards 3 times at midnight.
I love.
So
I love the most about stories like that are they come from a culture that says witchcraft is bad, that magic is bad, that fairies, demons, devil, they just say it's all bad. But we're loaded with local stories that are not just go to the tower, you'll see a ghost. No, you go to the tower, you drive backwards 3 times.
Who makes this up?
Yeah.
No, and we are. It's true. The amount of people practice magic and not necessarily they don't admit it, they don't call it that, but it's a very strongly interwoven part of our culture. That's why witches are so popular. That's why they will not go away. We're not witchcraft in the movies. It becomes very popular because it's a source of personal empowerment, whether you practice it and call yourself a witch or not. That's what we were doing going to legend tripping. We were trying to harness a power, and tap into something strong. And so, we have that. And here in the South, I've been here forever, but I'm not from here, so I didn't grow up in the culture. There's tons of stories like that. There's tons of myths where if you do this and that, you get to do that. And I know that in some of the cultures, there's a lot of magic that goes with, that are Bible phrases. And, I didn't come from Christianity. I didn't come from a religious background, so I don't know, couldn't even tell you one. But I know that in a lot of the Appalachian and Southern cultures, Bible phrases are actually magical mantras. They use them to get the weather to change, to make people healthy, to scry or to do divinations. And so magic exists, whether it's demonized or not. People are doing it.
Yep, absolutely.
It's fascinating.
That was awesome.
Okay, gang, that's a wrap on this episode of Weird Web Radio. Once again, thank you all for listening. Now, it's time for you to go join the official Weird Web Radio membership. Go to patreon.com/weirdwebradio and you can choose your rewards and become a member today. Enjoy all the exclusive benefits, inside information, and plenty of bonus audio with each guest. Now, you can find the show at weirdwebradio.com and weirdwebradio.libsyn.com. The show is listed on Facebook and Twitter as Weird Web Radio, and you can find me on Instagram as just Lonnie_Scott. Please remember to rate and comment and share the shows that you like, and it helps others find us in all the search results. Shoot me an email if you want to be a guest on the show, or if you know someone that would be a great guest in upcoming episodes. You can send that to weirdwebradio@gmail.com. Seek the mysteries and delights in life, my friends. As always, stay weird out there.